Hello and welcome to this Talk Tuesday, where it's all about the discovery of somatic experiencing and self-love together. What is that? How does it feel? How does it work? And so today we're focusing on compassion as one of the elements. I'm Mia Saenz and this is Lori Montry. Hey, Lori, and we are your co-founders of The Greatest You. So I really love this experience and this conversation because there are a lot of people who are into somatic experiencing, body love, self-love, healing. So it hit me, and Lori and I have been talking about it for months, how the somatic experience can literally change your life. And when you put it with self-love, right? The recognition that, oh, this is for me, this is important. I need to focus on it. I need to practice it before I need it, right? Just like all the self-love tools, right, Lori? All the self-love tools, right, are about practicing so that then when we get there, I mean, Lori, how many times have we told people, okay, go in front of the mirror and say, I love you, write down your information, once a day, once a day or whatever. You can do it more than once a day if you want, but really once a day is perfect. And so that's really the experience of getting into working through it so that you're prepared when you need the evolved self. So it's the same way with this. Is you practice somatic experiencing so it comes to you in those moments that you thoroughly need it. And that's the beauty of this. So today we're going to talk a little bit about compassion and self-love and how that supports us in somatic experience. Okay, so Lori, the conversation of compassion, it is synonymous with self-love, right? And it's also synonymous with self-care. And all of these self-love, self-care, self-compassion, these are all really aspects into somatic experiencing. So I'm going to have you share, because I can talk a lot myself, but I'm going to have you share your take on the connection between somatic experiencing and self-love. First, you have to care enough to love yourself to do it. And secondly, doing the tools has changed so many people's lives because they're ready when they need it. Just like any warrior, right? You go off to battle, or a basketball player, it's the same thing. You're practicing. So your skills are on fire when you absolutely need it. And that's what this is about.
There's so many, and we're breaking this huge topic, this huge foundational topic down into little chunks all the time because we really can't. It's so experiential as well. So we need experiences. We need to try it out to really start to understand what it looks like and what it really is. And, I have so many thoughts about how these things relate, but I'll just pick one thing. And before we dive too deep, let's just, for the sake of, we've obviously been teaching on somatic experiencing quite a bit, but what if somebody's, showing up here or watching one of our videos for the first time and they're like, what are they talking about? What is somatic experiencing? So I really want to lead a movement. I want to change the name actually of somatic experiencing. We'll still use it because people know and can relate to it, but I want to change it from somatic experiencing to somatic communication. And the reason why I want to do that is because somatic experiencing is not about going through the motions, right? So sometimes you can think of things like certain yoga poses, or you could think of, certain things when you're like, I have a goal here. I'm trying to create some kind of outcome, some kind of result. And that's what I'm doing. And I don't want anyone to think of somatic experiencing that way. I want them to always be thinking of it as, here I am, being willing to explore my inner space. And whatever happens, whatever the result is perfect. And it's exactly what we want to be in touch with, and what we want to experience is whatever we experience, as opposed to, I'm doing this particular exercise to be calm. Now, maybe you've done this exercise 15 times and you recognize every time I do it, I feel a sense of calm. Wonderful. Now you have a tool in your tool belt that you can use and go to when you're needing to be calm, but especially as you're starting out. And one of the reasons why the Greatest You Academy and also the Freedom from Emotional Eating program has an expansive somatic experiencing library is because your nervous systems are all different. And we need to try on a lot of different things and gather a lot of data before we can really understand what exercises bring about what result. And that can change for you from moment to moment. You could try on an exercise when you're feeling pretty resilient and it brings you even more peace and contentment. You could try on that same exercise if you're in a moment of activation and it proves to be more activating and not calming. So there's just so much here. I just really want to encourage you guys as you're hearing all of this information about somatic experiencing and hopefully trying some things on, that you don't go into it with any kind of expectation about what the result will be on any given day, on any given exercise. It is communication with your internal world and your nervous system. And so when we think about that in the context of compassion, right, being willing to, sometimes people say, I must not be doing this right. I don't get calm, or I don't feel anything, or whatever. Yep, I'm a failure at somatic experiencing. It doesn't do, right? And so right there, we have the opportunity for compassion when we don't put expectation on the practice, on what we have to create or what we're shooting for. So even in the practice itself, especially when we approach it from that standpoint of communicating rather than trying to create something, we're showing ourselves compassion. And you said, what's the connection? And I really think, I feel like, I don't know whether to put, if we imagine a wheel with many, many spokes and the center, I don't know whether to put this in the center, self-compassion, and then all the things around and somatic experiencing, or somatic experiencing in the middle, and then all of these things, self-love, self-compassion. Yeah. So, it doesn't really matter other than to say these things are so intertwined. You can't have one. You can't have a true practice of being with yourself, showing yourself compassion, showing yourself love without some form of somatic experiencing, somatic communication, paying attention to your internal world. I want to talk also, Mia, about how we can't change a lot of our thoughts, because our compassion, when we show compassion to ourselves, so much of it is the way we think about ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves, right?
Yes.
And these come from thought patterns that are established usually early in life. We're taught, we had parents who were who reminded us that when we don't get A's on tests, try harder next time, you shouldn't be laying around. Come on, there's so many things to do. You need to be busy all the time, or your worth is tied to your achievement. Those kinds of messages. And when we want to show ourselves compassion, that involves undoing those old neural pathways and creating new thoughts. But that feels dangerous, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It feels dangerous. Like so many people, and I can certainly relate. I used to think that my worth and value came from doing things for others. Why would they like me if I wasn't making their life better? If I wasn't, doing things for them. And when I started to see that as nothing but a limiting belief, a thought pattern that I had created, because when I did that, people smiled at me more. I didn't get in trouble. Got it. My worth comes from what I do and how well I behave, etc. So when we go to challenge that kind of thing, it feels scary, right? Because we think to ourselves, well, where the hell does my worth come from if it doesn't come from those things? And it's hard, right, to stand in those moments and say, nope, I don't have to please people in order to be lovable, in order to be worthy. But that's a hard thing to do, right? And we get triggered in that moment, right? And when we're triggered, our nervous system is activated. So if we're in that moment and we're like, oh my gosh, if I don't say yes to this, they're, I'm going to disappoint them. And then, and the brain takes us down that path and tells us essentially that we're not going to be loved, we're going to be left, we're going to be rejected, all those things. And our nervous system, meanwhile, is getting worked up, and we don't even realize, right? Unless we're really astute and aware, we're not even realizing that this is going on. But we're like, yes, of course I'll do that thing. Of course I'll go there, right? Because we're scared. So if we're going to be able to challenge old thought patterns, we have to be able to work with our system so that we can calm that activation and that arousal that's coming from trying to be different. And we need tools to be able to do that, because when we're in that activated, aroused state, our limbic system or our survival brain is in control, and survival brain doesn't form new pathways. Survival brain says, nope, the old ones are working just fine. Just stick with the known. Don't even go over there, right? So it's so important, if we're going to create those new neural pathways that say, no, actually my worth is inherent. It doesn't depend on how happy you are or whether your needs are met. It depends on nothing more than me being me. And if we're going to try to adopt these new ways of being and these new thoughts, our nervous system has to be regulated. So that's just one, right? We could probably sit here all day and come up with 50 ways that compassion is built on the somatic experiencing or communication. We can't change the old thought patterns that are not compassionate unless our system is well regulated. And that's kind of from a scientific standpoint, we can really understand why we don't have that capacity in the moment when we're all triggered. Yeah.
It's really a very beautiful thing, self-compassion, right? What does it mean? It's a gentleness, it's an opening, it's a love. And so self-compassion was the one that we chose for this week because we believe that a nurturing relationship with ourselves, and when we prioritize our well-being, right, this is how we move into self-love. And somatic experiencing and self-love are so intertwined that Lori and I get to show you all the spaces and all the places that they come together. So our journey towards self-love, which is what everybody is on, right? It's crucial to really understand and recognize that our trauma has experienced and is stuck in our body, right? We've talked about that. So and also the emotional stuff that comes up with, which is a psychological. So if you want to support that healing, like Lori's talking about, you really got to get into the somatic experiencing and the connection with self-love. Because if we're always yelling at ourselves, we know this in self-love that I've been teaching for 16 years, that Lori and I have been teaching together for several years. It literally is the stopper of progression and healing with that anger. So we get mad at ourselves all the time until we don't, until we shift everything into that self-compassion, that gentleness, that kindness, that love, that looking at the space of who we are. So this is why somatic experiencing and self-compassion are definitely intertwined in so many ways, numerous ways. And these vital aspects really do affect us, and they change our life, and they make us see, okay, if I'm more gentle, then I'm allowing the release of these wounds, kind of thing. So this is why it's really important to put these two together so that we can flourish. So, and same with self-love, and same with all the ones that we're coming to share with you, because when something is stuck in your body, a memory, a pain, or whatever, or in your mind, you don't need to rehearse it over and over and over again, and you don't need to live with it. That is what allows us to move emotionally, or our emotional intelligence, forward. All of this stuff comes together. Self-love helps heal us emotionally for our emotional intelligence. Somatic experience helps heal us for emotional intelligence. So if you can see how we're so connected and intertwined, it's really fantastic. I trip out on this stuff. I'm like, This is the most fantastic stuff. I'm seeing like spider webs on a tree with the sunlight coming through. There's all these intricate areas, right? That is how fascinating we are. What do you think, Lori?
Well, it's so true, all of it. And so, we always try to be practical as well and really give you tools and things to take with you. It's wonderful to hear about these things and to start to understand them and to even get excited about implementing them in your life. And so we want to provide you some support and some ideas for how to actually bring this in and make it part of your everyday practice. We've been teaching and we gave you a few exercises in a previous video, but just thinking about that beautiful place of compassion. And another exercise that we could try on here is, if you can start to really notice, where are some places in your life, in your world, where you're recognizing you aren't being particularly compassionate. Maybe spend 3 days. Pick 3 days where you feel like you have some space, some energy. Not that these are total relaxation days, because in those days you might not hear as much of the uncompassionate part of you. So regular days, but days when you feel like, okay, yes, I'm going to be devoted in these 3 days to really noticing, paying attention to my thoughts, to the way to myself, the way I treat myself, the expectations that I have for myself, and start to notice in what areas and what ways are you lacking that compassion for yourself. And you can tell, because you can compare the way you treat yourself to the way that you might treat, a best friend or a little one, right? How would you treat them? Would you say to them, what, you have a sore throat and you're tired? Get your ass up and get to, wherever. Or would you say, oh, baby, I'm so sorry. Can I make you a cup of tea? Let's try to, figure out if we can lessen some of the obligations today, or get some help, or, whatever it is. But, how is that compared to how you're treating yourself? So notice these things and make some notes and really get some information here, some awareness around where you're lacking that compassion. And then you can, not necessarily in the moment, but maybe outside the moment, spend a couple of periods, 10 or 15 minutes, and look at your list and ask yourself, when you're treating yourself in these ways, where do you feel that in your body? Right? When you're telling yourself, too bad, or you should do better, or you shouldn't have made that mistake. Gosh, you're so dumb. Or you're not smart enough. You're not thin enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not kind enough. You're not, whatever it is, right? Where do you feel that in your body? And then go to that place and support that place. Maybe it's with pillows. Maybe it's with your own beautiful touch. Maybe if you have a loved one that you want to bring in on this, then they can provide, right, some physical support for that part of your body that's taking the pain of living without compassion sometimes. And this would be a really enlightening exercise around compassion, and also how your somatic experiencing practice can help support you in that.
Yeah. So we got a message from someone saying, I could say her name, but I think I'll leave it for this one. I had been uncompassionate by holding unforgiveness in my heart. So what I'd like to say to that is, when you recognize that, that's really beautiful, because that's a shift, right? That's an awareness that can move. And so what do? We need to discover the gentleness. Otherwise, it just stays there, locked in your heart, that unforgiveness. And so how do you do that? Right? We always throw stuff at you guys, and this person will be saying, oh, that's right, because she's been a student of ours for a couple years. So it's really,
but I like how she said, I had been,
okay,
because she has busted this thing.
Well, so then we're going
Wild.
to pretend like she didn't, okay? Because this is a good learning, teaching experience. So since she has, I'll say thank you, Nicole. So this is a beautiful experience because we get to, one, be compassionate with ourselves and gentle, and find that forgiveness within ourselves. If we don't learn to forgive ourselves, guess what happens? It's more and more trauma built up, more hatred, more shame, more get the hell away from me. And how can we get out of our bodies and run away? We are creating more trauma when we do that. So, everybody, the secret ingredient that we've been talking about for years here in this, if it's not been in this group, it's been in my stuff, is about the gentleness. You must discover gentleness. Now, what is gentleness to yourself? That's deep love. We don't even have to call it self-love, because unconditional love and self-love are really edging out love. It's putting cursors in front of it of what it is, when it should just be universal. So one day we will get there where we don't have to identify being kind, being gentle as self-love. It will be an awareness of me first, so that I can give it to the world, right? So then that's where we get to be able to say, wait a minute, I haven't maybe been doing some practices for myself. No, I'm not going to yell at myself. I'm not going to call myself names. I'm going to get into the gentleness of doing what it takes to get rid of that self-anger and hatred, so that I can love on myself more. Did you hear when I said get rid of that self-judgment and anger? That's the thing that stops humanity. That's why self-love has become such an industry over the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah. And it's so important too, when we think about the fact that the truth of the fact that we can only call in people who will treat us as good as we're treating ourselves.
Mhm.
So if we want others to be compassionate towards us, it really does start with us. Sounds a little bit cliche, and I think that before I understood it and saw that integrated into my own life, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Not really sure how that works. And we don't have to explain it, but we know that it is a universal law. You can only call in people who will treat you as good as you're treating yourself, as well as you're treating yourself. So if that's not a reason to dig into some self-compassion, I don't know what is.
You know, the whole concept of even journaling and stuff like that, do you guys understand that, yes, it's self-love, but self-love is somatic, right? When you're getting it out onto paper, what are you doing? You're releasing it from your system, from your body, from your heart, maybe even from your gut system. And so as you release stuff, that's the somatic experience, or the somatic communication, right? You're taking it out of your body, you're releasing it into paper. And then what you have to do is you have to do whatever you do, your rituals, your love, whatever, in order to not allow that to still fester. And if it's still festering, you're not done with your work. We want to be whole and complete. We don't want to have the, this is not a good look. Can you imagine if we actually developed, it might be a beautiful look actually, develop leopard spots for every place that we had something going on that was disruptive within our system. Wow, we would have a lot of stuff to take care of, and the whole world could see that we were having issues. And every time we removed one, a spot would go away, or a piece of the spot would go away. That would be a really interesting way to look at it. But we don't have that ability, and more or less, thank goodness, because that would also be drawing attention, like, look at me, I still have my work to do. So understand that there is a way through everything. Early, and 16 years ago, I started talking about body love, because that was the honoring. We have the honor bath work out of there, and we have the passion muse connection work out of there, which is somatic, which is the eyes, the hearing, the touch, the smell, the taste. All of that works together. That was an old process I did with couples. It is so beautiful. It's not, nothing is one thing or another. This is how we're so, like we said before, woven together. If you can imagine that spider web, glistening in the morning sun and the intricate pieces and maybe dewdrops and stuff. That's how beautiful we are interconnected with ourselves. We're not these blobs that are just here. I brought up the other day about how in the beginning, I didn't know who I was. I would say, who are you? Who is that person inside? I can't connect. It's so weird. What's this body? All of that. I've started hearing in the last couple of days people talking about not being able to identify who they are. I heard somebody in another class yesterday say, who am I? That's what I would always say. Who am I? So that's where your investigation begins. You get to discover the most incredible human being you have ever met. And she's not far, or he's not far. It's right inside of us. And so these practices, becoming proficient at who you are, is absolutely self-love. Because in those moments, when you need it, you need it. And why do we wait until we absolutely need it? We can be dead by the time we decide that it's time to pick up that specific practice, and then it won't support us. It's just like in education. This woman here is an attorney. You have to have all your things, and it was so perfectly in my head when you were talking, the scenario of, if you were an attorney, everything's in alignment, right? You have all your classes, you know, all your laws to be a graduate, to pass the bar, the board, whatever. This is how we need to be in our life now. It may not be the education of law, but it's the education of us. It's the healing of us. Why would people spend their lifetime playing around, going to school, getting a higher education, and not take care of the most important aspect of all of it, which is this beautiful system we are that houses all our information?
Mhm.
It's a really beautiful concept when you can look at how deep and rich it all goes. And it all belongs to you. We are magnificent beings, but we have to do our work so that we can clear in a second anything that disrupts us. And guess what? As you move along, like we talk about in self-love, as you move along, those disruptions aren't there anymore. Why? Because we've removed them. This is what the somatic is. We're removing it from the body, from being stuck. It's a beautiful, beautiful journey into you.
It really is. And I'm resisting the urge right now to give you about 6 more things to do, because I know it doesn't do any good
Yeah.
if we give so much that it's hard to assimilate. So we gave you, and Mia keeps saying, doing the work. And if you're somebody who's wondering, like, okay, yes, I'm inspired. I want to know who that person is. I want to live my life from clarity and authenticity and belief and confidence in compassion for myself. What does the work look like? And we'll just say, that's something that me and I, when we came together with our businesses, we said, it's incredible how everything is woven together, right? And we didn't want to do little pieces anymore, right? We could do little programs where it's like, okay, learn to deal with your emotions now, your thoughts and your health, and somatic experiencing over here, and all the different pieces. And it seemed to us like, that's so frustrating, because you think, oh, I've been working so hard on this piece, but I'm not actually seeing big results. I'm seeing little shifts, whatever. And then we start to lose confidence in ourselves. We don't see how it fits into the bigger picture. So we decided, let's not do that anymore. Let's be comprehensive. Let's do mind, body, spirit all in the same place, so that a person can understand the work and the bigger process that happens. And it involves getting to know yourself. Who am I, right? Answering that question, and learning to love who that person is, right? And from that place, you have the clarity to know what is important to me, what will be fulfilling. Me and I were speaking with someone yesterday who said, as I thought back about on my life and tried to find moments of joy, I had some fleeting moments of joy with when I had success in my music career. And that was, I had a moment of joy, but it was so fleeting. what I thought was going to bring joy and fulfillment in my life really didn't. And that's so true for so many of us when we're not reaching for and coming from a place of clarity and authenticity. We don't even know what would make me happy. What I, and so that's our starting point. We have to know who we are if we're going to go on and create the life that we want, because otherwise we're creating a life, right? We are creating a life every single day, whether it's the life that really fulfill us or it's a life based on, oh, who I have been taught I should be. Mia asked the question, it was so important. Why would we devote so much of our time and life force and energy into learning about the law, right? In this example, or learning about anything, and just ignore the incredible power and the person that you are inside. The reason why is because we're not taught to do that, right? We're taught the opposite. We're taught to, this is the measure of success. This is what you need to achieve in order to be successful and have fulfillment. But that's a lie. And we know it's a lie because we're all here saying to ourselves, wait a minute, that's not fulfilling. Where's my joy? Where's my contentment? And that's a beautiful place to be, wondering those things. That's a beautiful place to be. So when we talk about do the work, we created the academy to be the work, to be, who am I? Getting in touch with your authentic being, and then working through your thoughts, your emotions, the somatic experiencing in your nervous system, and into your health, right? Because that's an important, your physical health is impacting all of the other aspects of your being, right? Spiritually, the relationships that you have in your life, and on and on. And then at that point, right, you've recollected yourself, you've gotten in touch with your authenticity. And now we ask you in the last third of the course, what do you want to create now? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do it. Here's the step-by-step dream, believe, create process that will allow you to do that. Let's pick something and make it happen, right? And I've loved seeing the things that come through. And it's not always something big and, totally, like one person wanted to learn to play the guitar. And that for her was like, she's in her 70s and she's like, that just felt like the most important thing that she could do. And so that's, what we create. Somebody else, a book, somebody else, a relationship,
We
someone
have
else.
an 80-year-old who by the mid-January will have her children's book published with all the pictures in it from the artists, that I found her. And it was amazing. I also want to say two things, if I can, Lori. This journey that we're on is about the individual. So this is one of my pet peeves, and I'm going to say it now because it's got to be said. I don't care if you know what parasympathetic is and you want to pretend like you're in that state, but then you go out and you mass murder people. Get it right. Don't learn this for the words, learn it for the transformation. I remember several times we've come across clients who have just wanted to they haven't made it into the academy. I was thinking about one that you and I, one of our first joint feminine freedom people. And it was just about the words. She didn't care about learning. So that's okay. If that's who you want to be.
And I still think it served because something got through and is
And it's
moving
processed through it. Yeah,
inside.
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it really is, guys. I know that that's mean to say, but I care about you enough to say, get past the excitement of, well, actually let the excitement be there of learning stuff, but don't just leave it there, because you can have pillows all over your room, parasympathetic, calm, alive, self-love, somatic experiencing, I love myself. But if they don't actually get implemented, it doesn't matter. That's my point. That's the point. If you're not implementing it, it's not serving you, right? And that's the most important thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound like a grump there. But when people use terms just to show us that they know what they are, it's okay, but please use it for yourself. That's my point. Get through it, use it for yourself, It's an incredible experience, and you are incredible. So we have the Greatest You Academy. You all know that. It's at its Black Friday special. This is the Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I should have opened that. We should have opened with that. And so in this academy, it's normally on the angel number of 4444 with 8 months of solid, beautiful work that you can do. 12 modules inside the academy, which is about 6 months. We also have the Get Ready for a Divine Love Connection. That's in there. We have some retreat stuff in there. We have meditations. But the point about the academy work, The Greatest You, is you get to discover yourself. There's a whole massive library of somatic experiencing, of meditations, of mindfulness. So I would say if you are on a journey to up level your business, to dig into finding a relationship, to start a new business, to be the best individual you could be and grow yourself, to heal yourself, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
The
Yeah.
academy is there for you. The price on the Black Friday is 50% off. 2222. That's a remarkable. We're even doing it for the first time this year at a monthly as well, which is, you'll have to look it up. It's pretty affordable. We wanted to make it so everyone who wants to be there can be there to learn. And we can only take 30 each time. So open up, yourself to what you want. 2024 looks like a more powerful year. Financially, guys, this world is going to be the way it is for a while. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline, and it's okay. Our world needs transformation in order to shift and change. So do the work to get your transformation so that you can stay up with your joyousness and creativity while everybody else is doing their thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're listing all those things, the financial security or deeply connected relationships, all the things, it may just be, I don't want to feel anxious all the time. It may just be, I want that, that sense of peace or that sense of I'm okay or I'm enough. That in and of itself will lead to tremendous things in your life. The something I've heard Wayne Dyer say a lot is, don't die with your music still in you. And that's what it's really about, not about an achievement, but about what is wanting to come through and be expressed through you. And that's what we want to bring about.
And so we're going to close out here, everybody. But Aubrey, why don't you stay on the line? I'd like to talk to you. All right, everybody.
Yes, Aubrey, I wanted to say thank you too to all of these beautiful comments. I'm not that skilled at taking in the chat, and so we usually save it and then go back through. And we've really appreciated all of your insights that you have that you've brought to this space, and yeah, excited for the place where you are, because it's obvious you're in a space of ready for transformation. Yeah.
So everyone, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in another episode next week of Talk Tuesday with the Self-Love and Somatic Experiencing. Thank you.